We should be live. I'm just going to assume we are.
Yep, there it goes.
Cool. Let's just get into it.
Okay.
I don't even know what to make of what happened this weekend. I think this might be the most chaotic of all the chaos weeks that we've had. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Booth Review. As always, I am your host, Devin Primrose, joined by that Sultan of Spice, Mr. Peter Strauss. What's going on, man?
Chaos in football, chaos in real life. It's just, it's been crazy. It's been a crazy time. My cat had surgery. You're about to become an uncle again.
Yep.
Things are just bananas. Spoiler alert, I almost put you under review.
I mean, would have been fair.
For how many? I mean, I would have been right there with you on most of the games. We disagreed on two, and I got them both right. So I'm closer to 500 than you are for last week.
Yeah, I went 4-9, which I meant to go back and double check, but I feel like out of all 3 seasons I've been doing this podcast, that might be the worst that I've done in a week before. I know there was at least one last year where me and Blake both just did absolute garbage job, but I don't know if it was 4-9 bad. That's 4-9. That almost takes skill to be that bad.
Yeah, the 4 games that Devin picked right, if you're curious, Jacksonville over New Orleans. I'm having to go down a bit. All these are... No, you got Cleveland at Indiana, barely, thanks to the refs.
We'll get into that.
You got Seattle over Arizona. You got Kansas City over the Chargers. And that's it, right? That's 4?
That sounds right.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I got Pittsburgh over you, but Pittsburgh was also kind of on the refs. I mean,
again, we'll get into
right
that.
At the end. Foreshadowing a lot here. I don't know if that's a good segue for me or not, but 2 games that were not decided by the refs.
Yeah.
2 games that were just... One was a shootout until the second half. The other was a bloodbath. Something I thought was going to be game of the week turned into a bloodbath. I'm talking about the 2 MVP quarterbacks in the league. In case you didn't know, by the way, Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson are the only 2 active QBs right now that have won the MVP award.
That's crazy to me.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers on IR, Cam Newton, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Peyton Manning, Adrian Peterson, all those guys are retired. Well, Cam Newton, I think, is still trying to come back, but
yeah,
I don't think it's going to happen.
I guess we have really truly have entered into that like new generation of players.
Yeah, for sure. And these 2 guys played like the MVPs that they've been. Let's start out with Lamar Jackson, 21 of 27 for 77.8% completion percentage. One of the highest of his career, I believe. 357 yards, 3 passing touchdowns, no interceptions. I believe no turnovers at all for Lamar Jackson this game. No, he did lose 1 fumble. So one turnover. And then also on the ground, he had 9 carries for 36 yards, a touchdown on the ground. Had a 95 QBR, so out of what is it, like 108 or something like that?
QBR is on a scale of 0 to 100.
0 to 100, so nearly perfect on the QBR.
Which is crazy.
The 155 passer rating, so perfect passer rating for him.
Just about, game. Yeah. Perfect passer rating is 158.3, so just a couple points shy. I mean, that's a dang near perfect game.
Yeah, I mean, against a defense who's been pretty good all year, like
Top half of the league at least.
yeah, just came out and reminded everyone, including me, who I personally apologize for the Ravens for getting them on my power rankings last week. That is not a mistake I will make in the future unless you do something horrible. On the other side, the homer pick here, Patrick Mahomes, 32 of 42 for 76.2% completion percentage, 424 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. So just 1 turnover for him as well. 91.9 QBR, 129.5 rating, and another
Crazy.
4 carries for 29. So both of them, 4 total touchdowns, only 1 turnover. Pretty high ratings and all that. And it's insane that, like, for Patrick Mahomes, like, this is the only way that people talk about, like, this is the only way he can be best of the booth, is when he has 400-yard games.
Oh yeah.
Because otherwise,
I mean, a 300 yard, 3 touchdown, no interception game is just like, that's par for the course for him.
That's just his average.
Yeah.
But yeah, shout out to both these guys living up to their MVP titles, especially Baltimore. Like, I think a lot. I mean,
yes,
we both picked the Lions. I think all of the experts on, like, every show I watched all picked the Lions. Like, there was, for some reason, no faith in the Ravens team this week, and they took it personally.
Obviously.
Just
I mean, I
came
think
out and held them. I think Jared Goff had like 1 completion for 2 yards in the first quarter. Like, insane stuff.
It was rough. And I think a lot of the reason why people weren't on the Ravens is just because of the way that they've looked this year. They've been very up and down. They've lost games that they, to be fair, probably shouldn't have lost. And they won games without looking great. Like, if you look at last week against the Titans, that game against the Titans, they did not look good, but they won it because the Titans are garbage.
They haven't really had this type of performance yet.
Right. So when they're playing these teams that I think most people would agree are in the bottom half of the league, such as the Titans, they've looked not dominant at all. They've still won them, but they haven't looked good doing so. And then they go and play teams that are probably around the mid-level, such as the Colts. And didn't the Colts beat them? Am I mistaken in that?
No, the Colts did beat them.
Yeah. So the Colts beat them. They lost to the Browns. Isn't that another one they lost to a couple weeks ago?
Was it the Browns? No, they beat the Browns.
It was close, at least, if they
lost
beat
to
them.
somebody else weird. Let me pull them up.
Yeah, I need to know because
they lost to the Steelers.
The Steelers, that's the other one. That's the other one, which I get it, like it's a divisional game, but at the same time, the Steelers are a mid-tier team. Like this is not a 5-1 team that you're playing that you're losing to. I think that if they had lost the Lions, nobody would have batted an eye. Everybody would have thought, okay, yeah, that makes sense with the way that they've looked. Like they look like a team that can compete, but at times they lose to teams weirdly. But yeah, to come out and absolutely look dominant like that is huge. I think everybody's changed their mind on this team. They showed how good of a defense they actually have and a good offense, which has, I don't know, it's kind of been missing from the Lamar Jackson narrative the last couple years at least. Like since his MVP season, he's kind of not, he hasn't had that like dominant Ravens offense that we saw when he was MVP. And so if he can get back to form, I mean, watch out, AFC.
Yeah, I mean, as long as he can stay on the field, he has like, I think weapons-wise, this is the best offense he's ever had. Like he's got,
yeah, I'd agree with that.
Like he already has like Rashad Bateman, who's decent and that he has chemistry with. Him and Zay Flowers, that connection is becoming one of the good ones. Obviously, as Mark Andrews, OBJ is starting to make an impact there. So yeah, if he just keeps building the chemistry with those guys. Same with Mahomes on the other side. He's still building his chemistry with his receivers. Rashee Rice seems to, I think, be the guy there. I think he's kind of starting to stand out as the number one receiver there in Kansas City, besides Travis Kelce, obviously. But.
Yeah. And getting McCole Hardman back is going to help out too, because McCole Hardman's not like a stud wide receiver, but that's a familiar face for Patrick Mahomes. That's somebody that he's already had a little bit of familiarity with.
Familiar face. He knows the offense. He's fast, so he's a good deep guy.
Yeah. Good return guy too.
Yeah. He had I think he wasn't in the game much because he just got traded this week, but McCole Hardman did have like a 50-yard punt return or something, and I think a catch for a first down. So. With a limited snap count already making an impact. And he got the tackle on Mahomes' interception. So,
yeah. I mean, Mahomes just did what Mahomes does, which I will say is more impressive when you're going up against a team like the Chargers that we all kind of expect to be competitive, but through 6 games has looked...
Especially with it being a divisional matchup and the way that these two teams have played.
Yeah.
I think Mahomes has only lost 2 games to division rivals, and I think one was Justin Herbert's first year. And then I think the Raiders on like a Monday Night Football or something.
I was going to say, I think the Raiders beat them at one point. But yeah, I mean... Again, Mahomes just doing what Mahomes does. But, yeah, listen, you had 2 quarterbacks for your best of the booth. My best of the booth is also a quarterback that led his team to a surprising win on Monday Night Football. Now, I will go ahead and say this. My Texas Rangers have been in the fight of their life to make it to the World Series over the last week. So Game 6 and Game 7 were on Sunday night and Monday night, respectively. So they had to win Game 6 on Sunday. They won Game 6, forced to Game 7 on Monday. Therefore, my Monday Night Football viewing was thrown out the window because of that. So I did not get to watch much of this game, but I did go back and watch some of the big plays from it and the big highlights. And I'm talking about Kirk Cousins leading the Minnesota Vikings to a big win over the San Francisco 49ers. This is another win that I think nobody really saw coming, especially when you factor in the big game or primetime Kirk Cousins narrative that has been thrown about, and probably wrongly so. I get it, Kirk occasionally doesn't have the great game under the lights, but this one was a good one for him. 35 of 45, which is 77.7% completion percentage, 378 yards, 2 touchdowns, just the 1 pick, and 80 QBR, which is pretty dang high, 107.2 passer rating. Just a solid game from him. I also have to include Jordan Addison in that, this is his breakout game for sure. Rookie wide receiver, 7 receptions, 123 yards, 2 touchdowns, so definitely helped out Kirk. But yeah, surprise. I think the reason why I chose him is because this is a good 49ers defense that, while they did still hold him to only 22 points, which isn't a lot in the NFL, it's enough to get the job done. The Niners offense was a little lackluster, missing some key pieces, but give credit to the Minnesota offense. They stepped up and went bananas. So,
man, also shout out to tight ends this week. TJ Hawkins 11 catches for 86 yards, which, I mean, he wasn't technically playing on National Tight Ends Day, and neither was George Kittle, who also had a decent day, but it was National Tight Ends Day. I'm sure you guys heard it a lot watching any of these games. And a lot of tight ends had some really good games. Obviously, Travis Kelce had 179 yards, which I forgot to mention. 12 catches with a touchdown.
Well, part of that was, I mean someone was in the building, so.
Yeah, that's what he's broken all the records. He has 2 rings. Like, what is his motivation now? He has to impress the most famous woman in the world.
It's tight ends day.
Yeah, and he had to lead that pack there. Darren Waller also had close to a 100-yard game. There was one other one. Mark Andrews had 2 touchdowns. I think was another one I was going to point out.
Yeah.
Like of the top 30 receiving leaders this week, I think 8 of them are tight ends.
Wow.
2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. I think I'm missing one. I think Mark Andrews didn't quite make the yards list, but he had 2 touchdowns. So
Yeah, my only problem with this game, I guess it's not really a problem, but after his performance on Monday night, Kirk Cousins, the next day, everybody was talking about, was Kirk a top 10 quarterback? Kirk's been a top 10 quarterback. Where you been? I've been saying this for 3 years now. Actually, more than 3 years, but I've only had the podcast for 3 years to scream and shout it. Kirk Cousins, if you're a Minnesota Vikings fan, shame on you for ever trying to get this man out of town. This is one of the better quarterbacks in the league. Listen, it's hard enough to find a good quarterback, and you happen to have one of the best ones in the league in your city playing for your team. Shame on you for ever wanting to get him out of town. And the same goes for all the Commanders fans back in the day when he was out there and kicked him out of town. Because imagine that Commanders franchise if Kirk Cousins was still leading the way. With the weapons they have there in the receiving court, now granted, you might not get those weapons in the draft because of where you would probably be if he was leading your team. But, like, if they had a competent quarterback out there, which Sam Howell's looked fine, sure. But if they had a competent quarterback out there like Kirk Cousins throwing to Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, all of those guys, you telling me that's not a scary offense? Absolutely it's a scary offense. I don't understand how this man constantly gets underappreciated and undervalued, especially by the fans for the teams that he plays for. It's ridiculous to me.
yeah, I mean, a lot of fans just overreact to certain things. And I want to point out I am skipping the perfect segue into my under review to talk about something else. But yeah, I think everybody kind of overreacts that way. Like, there's people that already want Bryce Young out of Carolina. Like, I get they haven't won a game, but you're not playing for this year.
I mean, Bryce has also looked mostly bad.
Yeah, but he doesn't have, like, I mean, CJ Stroud is flourishing with a little bit better team, but Carolina just doesn't have anything for him. Like,
I mean, I would say what CJ Stroud has around him weapon-wise is fairly on par with what Carolina has around Bryce weapons-wise. I could be a little bit mistaken, but I think that Carolina has Adam Thielen. That is a high-end wide receiver too. I get that Thielen's not a wide receiver 1, but Thielen on most teams is a good wide receiver 2. And
well, yeah, that's the thing. Neither team really does have a wide receiver 1.
Exactly. That's what I was gonna say. Who's been the best wide receiver for
the Texans?
The
Either
Texans?
Nico
Tank Dell?
Collins or Tank Dell.
Yeah. Who are those guys? That's my point. Like, who are they? I mean, the only thing that CJ has that Bryce doesn't have is a strong running game behind him, and a good offensive line, which helps out.
Yeah,
that's
I
for
was
sure.
gonna say, I
But
think the Texans' offensive line is way better.
My point, I agree, the offensive line is better, but my point remains that weapon-wise, I don't think that either team is in a better position weapon-wise.
Yeah,
I think the Texans are in a better position for the future with the guys they have, like Nico Collins, Tank Dell, which are both young guys, but I don't think right now they're any better than what Carolina's throwing out there.
Yeah, I think part of it is also coaching because Carolina has Frank Reich, who I don't know how he got another shot. Like, they should have just hired Steve Wilks. I get that Steve Wilks is in a better position now as the defensive coordinator in San Francisco. Like, he's probably living the life over there. Maybe not after 2 losses in a row, but still better than
garbage decision.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'm gonna go back to my segue.
Go back to it.
And speaking of the Commanders, because we just talked about the Commanders, obviously, their entire offense is going under review for me. Like kind of specifically Sam Howell, but also just in general. Like, this is the Giants. who are bad. I think
Yep.
every other game the Giants have played, they've had at least besides that weird game from the Bills, every other team has scored at least let me make sure I get this right here. At least 24 points. Other than that, the Bills scored 14 and the Commanders scored 7 and lost the game. And normally like the Commanders like fine, like but they just beat the Falcons. Like they've been so streaky this year.
Yep.
And especially Sam Howell, where that interception, he only had the one pick, but that pick was that Giants defender looked like it was his route. Like he caught the ball running towards the wrong end zone. Like he just went and threw it right to that Giants receiver. It's just a bad loss against a bad team. They had no run game whatsoever. I don't know who Chris Rodriguez is, but he had the most yards, 7 carries for 31 yards. Brian Robinson only had 8 carries for 23 yards. Like the only person on offense that made any kind of dent in this game was Scary Terry with 6 catches for 90 yards. But even still, like this is the Giants. You have to score points. The Giants defense didn't just get good overnight. Like that's not what happened.
Again, they could have had Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know if it's like Sam Howell just not being consistent, if it's something with Ron Rivera, if it's
I do think Ron is part of the problem. And I mean, I thought he was part of the problem last year with the way that he handled Heineke as his quarterback. So I think that he's got to be one of the coaches that's on maybe the hottest seat in the NFL.
I do think his seat is very hot. I don't think he gets fired during the season. Because he's a cancer survivor and like
maybe not.
Mean. And then also it's new ownership, so they might not want to like take over and just come in and start like clearing house.
Who if you had to bet on one to get fired midseason this year, who are you putting your money on?
Man. Well, it's not going to be Belichick because they just did an extension.
Dumb move, by the way. Dumb move.
Man, that's a tough one.
I mean, like to me, I think the 3 hottest seats, in my opinion, are Rivera, McDaniels, and Staley. And if I had to guess one of them currently, I think I might say Staley.
Yeah, I don't know what the situation is if they can afford to fire Josh McDaniels yet. Staley, they would need to lose, like they couldn't win any more games in the next like.
But they're 2-4 already. They're to make it to the playoffs when you start 2-4 through your first 6 games. Like, good luck.
If they lose next week to the Bears, fire him. Just fire him. Just end it there. You have no stock in Staley like these other teams have. Like Bill Belichick just signed an extension. He's not getting fired. Josh McDaniels might still be too expensive to fire. A lot of these other teams have either decent coaches just starting out, or I could see Carolina firing Frank Reich, but again,
I don't think they do that.
Rookie quarterback, yeah. So
I don't think they do that first year with a rookie quarterback that you drafted. Like you've got to give him some time, not just for Frank, but also for Bryce Young. Like you've got to give Bryce Young some time in that system to see if is it a system or is it Bryce? Like you know what I mean? Yeah. I think too often that's been the issue with rookie quarterbacks not working out is the front office gives up on the coach too soon, and then you've got that quarterback stuck in the carousel of having to learn a new system every year, and that's not good. So
yeah, I could see if the Saints fall out of the race for top NFC South,
possibly Dennis,
or same with Todd Bowles if Tampa Bay falls out of the race.
True,
but I mean, they're all pretty much even right now. Falcons only a half game ahead of Tampa and a full game ahead of New Orleans. So I don't know how likely that is. Yeah, you might be right. It might be Staley.
I think the expectations for the Chargers, not just this year, it's been the last like 3 years, that the expectations for this Chargers team is one of the best in the AFC, should be a playoff contender, should make a run at a Super Bowl. Can they get there? Who knows? But they should at least make a run, especially with the talent that's on that team. And
Yeah.
this team is going 2-4. And it's not like the Chargers, it seems like for the last 2 years, the biggest issue has been injuries. Like, they deal with injuries so much. They've been without, what's his name, Mike Williams, a lot. I think Austin Eckler might have dealt with some injuries at some point over the last 2 years.
Yeah, he was out for he played week 1 and then missed, I think, 4 straight games and then came back against the Chiefs.
The defense has had their own injury issues, but like for the most part this year, I don't think there's been any major
I think the biggest
Injuries.
injury for them is
somebody just went down like last week. I know that.
let's see who's out. Jalen Guyton. Mike Williams went out a couple weeks ago. He's on IR. Other than that, I mean, Everett is questionable, but he's not like
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, you got a team that, and again, like, injuries can't be your only excuse, because injuries happen to every team.
No, they also lose
Every
because
team.
Brandon Staley makes bonehead decisions, whether
Right.
it's
That's what I'm saying.
a 4th down try or calling a timeout to try to win a game against the Chargers that you could just tie to go to the playoffs.
That's my whole.
Whether
that's my
it's
whole
blowing
point.
a 28-point lead to the Jags in the playoffs, like
Because this is what Staley's. This is at least his 3rd year. Maybe it's his 4th.
I think it's his. I think he started the same year as Justin Herbert, so I think it's his 4th.
Yeah, if that's the case, then he should definitely be a strong contender for getting canned mid-season.
Yeah, I think. Here's how I see Brandon Staley. I think you have 2 chances to fire him. If he loses against Chicago, fire him.
Oh, 100%.
Fire him this week.
100%.
Get him out of there.
I mean, he was on the verge of getting fired if they had lost to Minnesota 3 weeks ago, whenever that was. And they would have started, I think they would have started 0-4. Is that, I believe that's correct.
Yeah, the weird thing that happened with Minnesota. I mean, they almost lost to Las Vegas too with freaking Aiden.
Aiden O'Connell.
Yeah, Aiden O'Connell threw like a bad pick at the end zone at the very end because they only had that shot because Brandon Staley went for a 4th down and they didn't convert. So
yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, like, he's got to be the strongest candidate. I mean,
yeah,
I think it's him, McDaniels, and Rivera. And like you said, finances could be in the way of McDaniels. I still say you should fire McDaniels at the end of the season.
And also Las Vegas is winning games, which is unfortunate.
I mean, they're winning some games. They didn't beat the Bears on Sunday.
Yeah. Well, they both had backup quarterbacks. That was just a weird game.
True.
But yeah, if they lose against Chicago, if they beat Chicago, but then lose both games to New York and Detroit, and then also lose to Green Bay, if they go 0-3 in that stretch, I think also fire him.
So so hold on. What's their next 4?
Their next 4 games is at home versus Chicago, and then they play the Jets in New York. They play at home versus Detroit, and then they play at Green Bay.
Ooh.
So I think
if you go 2-2 over that stretch, then
I mean, it's hard because New York and Detroit are good teams, and that's a problem with their schedule. Is like,
but New York's not like, that's a team. Like, New York is a anomaly, is what they are, but they have a good defense. But they're definitely beatable, especially for a team as talented as the Chargers.
Yeah,
Green Bay is an absolute garbage show. Detroit is the only team that you can say, okay, you lost to a good team. Like, we'll give you a pass on that one. If they lose to 2 out of 3 of Chicago, New York, Green Bay, he's got to be gone. He has to be gone.
it's just hard to say because like they could have had Sean Payton and maybe they dodged a bullet with that with what we're seeing in Denver.
I mean, possibly,
I don't know,
but
they chose Staley over Sean Payton. So I think that there's enough faith there that like they don't want to look bad by firing Staley in the middle of the season.
I don't
That's
know.
like the only reason I could think that they would keep him. But that's why I think like it's either a loss to Chicago or beating Chicago, but then going 0-3 after that. After
Maybe.
that, I mean, the rest of the season, it's already week 12. I don't think there's any point in firing him after that. 'Cause
Maybe.
they're either going to be in the race or not in the race by that point.
True. Well, we got on a little bit of a tangent, but my under review for this week, I spoiled it a little bit in the lead in, but it has to be the referees. There were a ton of, and I get it every week there's bad calls, but like it seemed like there was multiple this week, at least 2 big ones in particular that really cost games for the other team. One of which being the pass interference on the Cleveland go-ahead touchdown drive in the final minutes of that game against Indianapolis. There was a play literally right before that where they called, what did they call? It wasn't defensive holding. It was like,
I don't remember. I know what you're talking about because I know the next play was a pass interference that was
yeah,
like
it
over
was
his
some
head.
it was some kind of illegal something or other.
It was pass interference on the offense.
No.
No, it was defensive holding, but they called it on the defense, and Amari Cooper like pushed him down.
Yeah,
It should have been offensive pass interference. Instead,
Yes.
it was defensive holding.
yes,
Is what happened.
and that gave them a free set of downs, moved them closer to the end zone, and on the next play, it was literally an uncatchable ball that ended up in the stands. Like if I don't even remember who the receiver was, but if he had caught it, he would have been about 5 yards out of bounds. Like
Yeah.
it would not have been anywhere close to the end zone. And they called pass interference, which was already like, that's borderline pass interference at best anyways. And that puts them at the 1 yard line, 1st and goal. Which it did still take them 4 downs to get it into the end zone. But like, you can't make that call in that moment, especially one that's that blatantly obvious of a bad call. The other one was on a 4th and 1 where Kenny Pickett tried to go up the gut to sneak, get the 1 yard pickup, and he was obviously well short.
He went down like
He literally
immediately.
went down on the line of scrimmage, which if the line of scrimmage said it was 4th and 1, then to me, to you, to everybody with a brain watching it, to all of the experts out there, to anybody that has ever officiated a game and is sitting at home watching it, that's short, obviously. But nope, 1st down. It's at literally that play went down to the 2-minute warning. Pittsburgh was allowed to literally kneel out the rest of the game because LA didn't have any timeouts. How does that happen? How does that happen when everybody watching the game knows that's a bad call?
Yeah. And it's like it was one of those situations where if it had gone to review, then they probably would have fixed it. But for some reason, the rules, LA didn't have any timeouts, so they couldn't challenge.
Correct.
And it was outside of 2 minutes.
Correct.
So it doesn't go to official review. So at that point, you just have to trust the refs, which is like, why are we
Which is
trusting the
garbage.
refs?
Listen.
Why are we doing that?
Listen, I would trust the refs a lot more if, and for anybody who has listened to mine and Peter's XFL or USFL version of this podcast, you have heard that one of the rule changes in those leagues, I can't remember which league it was that there would be a sky judge. There would be somebody up in the booth watching the game along with it. There is an official in the booth that's literally watching the broadcast of the game. And if anything is missed before the next play, they can call down and say, hey, hold up, wait a second, there was actually holding on that play, or hey, hold up, wait a second, there was actually some pass interference, or hey, hold up, wait a second, you got the wrong spot. And they can call down and fix it before the next play. And this is something that's been brought up every single year. as a way of fixing officiating, and for some reason the NFL doesn't want to do it, and that is some straight up BS. You're literally costing people, like if we're going to start getting into bed with sports books, you're costing people money with these bad calls. At some point you have to be held accountable, and for a league that wants to stand on all of this integrity, like, what are we doing? Just pay somebody, just pay the extra official. It's not you're $1 billion company. It's not like this is a huge task that somebody's got to undergo to have an extra official there up in the booth to say, oh, hey, actually you missed that call, or hey, actually you got that call wrong. How is that hard to do? It's not.
Yeah, I don't know because if you think about how people talk about games being like fixed or whatever, like you talk people like, oh, coaches like, oh, they're running a play because they want to get more yards to hit like a thing, or they want to score more points to beat the spread, whatever, things like that. But I mean, coaches make a lot of money. Players make a lot of money.
Yep.
NFL refs aren't even full time.
Nope.
This is a hobby to them.
Which
why are these guys?
Which is also garbage.
Why are these guys who don't get paid a lot, and of anybody in the NFL who has the power has the most motivation? I'm not saying they're doing it, but they're not even thinking that it's a possibility that their part-time refs who they pay very little and get treated very poorly by the public aren't trying to make some extra money on the side. That's all I'm saying. That's something they should think about. They need to make refs full-time, and I don't know what it's going to take to change that. There's going to have to be the sports books are going to have to come in and convince the NFL, I think.
Well, I know that there's a lot of the reason why rule changes don't happen in the NFL is because you have to have X amount of owners that vote on it. Essentially, the front offices of the league are just there to kind of oversee the 32 teams. Like the 32 teams basically run the league, and the offices just kind of like are there in name.
Okay, but why would the owners not want that?
I don't know. It hasn't passed voting for the last couple of years. This Sky Judge, I don't get it.
Sky Judge or even full-time refs, like, I don't know exactly what the new rules are and stuff in baseball, but like it's still insane that we have at this point in baseball that you can have like a wild pitch that's called a strike. Like,
well, I mean,
you know what I mean?
So a huge part of baseball, and any baseball fan that has been a baseball fan for a long time will tell you this, is that while it is frustrating that umps have bad calls, it's still there is like tradition in that every single ump has a slightly different strike zone. And so on some nights it's going to be a tighter strike zone, on other nights it's going to be looser. That ball that's outside, you're going to get that call every single time from some umps. Other umps not going to get it from. So it adds an extra like layer to the game and adds a little bit more of that mental battle between a pitcher and batter, whether you like it or not. Like that, there are fans that do like that about baseball, that don't want it to be 100% perfect. And it's more impressive when you have umps that do call 100% perfect games. Doesn't happen a ton. So that's a little bit different. This is literally like every week there's bad calls, and these are blatant calls that everybody with their human eyes are sitting at home and saying, how did you miss that? And for the ump's sake, I do want to give them a little bit of a pass, because I think there's like 6 or 7 of them on the field. They're not going to be able to see 100% everything. And then on top of that, they're having to watch it in real time. We get the benefit of watching in slow motion at home. They're having to watch it in real time, and they're also all having to rely on each other to have seen it and get it 100% right. So if there's two referees that see the play, one of them has seniority over the other. And so if one says it's one thing, another says it's another, the one that has seniority, that's the call they go with. But I think more times than not, you really just have the one, maybe two of them that see the play that happens where the call is made. I think there's few times where there's 4 or 5 of them that all see the same thing. So that's just more reason to me why there should be someone in the booth that's watching the broadcast, being able to see from all the camera angles that we get to see it from at home, being able to see it in slow motion immediately afterwards and see, oh, wait, actually that wasn't that. I just don't I don't know how that, like, how this isn't a thing.
Yeah, and I'm not saying like fully rely on digital in any sport. Like I think the part of what makes sports is that they all have a human
A little
element.
bit, yeah.
I think there needs to be some kind of checks and balances system. And
yes.
right now it's just the refs have each other and that's it. Like they've been adding more and more, but in this situation, how like there's this little loophole that Pittsburgh gets away with, like the Rams' chance to come back and try to tie the game.
I mean, if we get down to week 18 and the Rams are a game outside of a playoff, and it comes back to, like, it's going to come back to this game. You could have had a shot at winning it with 2 minutes to go. Matt Stafford, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp all out there, but no, the refs marked the ball a yard further than it actually was.
Yeah, you know what we didn't even touch on about the refs? What game we didn't even mention that refs were horrible in?
I had 2 other examples written down and just never got around to them. One of them was a false start on the center, literally raising his head in the Broncos-Packers game. I don't know if you saw that one. That was an absolute garbage false start call. And the other one was a blatant missed pass interference on Philly, where the defender literally held Cedric Wilson by the face mask.
Well, okay. Talking about Philly, you want to know a fun fact about that game?
Yeah.
How many penalties do you think were called on Philadelphia?
Oh, I didn't even watch the game, so I have no idea.
If just throw a number out there.
I mean, I would say like,
I'll tell you it's low.
I would say like 6.
Well,
penalties.
you're wrong. It's 0. 0 penalties were called on the Philadelphia Eagles on Sunday Night Football.
I mean, it is possible for a team to play a perfect game.
They did not. Well, while that's happening on one side, because like you said, like there was that blatant pass interference call that they didn't call.
There was a missed blatant hold too.
Yeah,
blatant
all
hold.
this stuff. And meanwhile, Christian Wilkinson is getting called for a light push for roughing the passer. Another one of these bogus calls.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that leads into legit or counterfeit. If we need to move on from referees, there was one other story I was going to bring up about college football, about the
Iowa
fair catch. Yeah, the fair catch that wasn't a fair catch.
That was also, I mean, it's college, so it doesn't, like, I'm not going to throw it in there, but that was also a bad one. As far as the Philly game, I do remember I saw something about one of those refs was from Philly. One of the refs on that squad that ref that game was from Philly. Like, how do you let that happen?
That's why you need a checks and balances other than just, I have seniority. Like, you need somebody else to overrule that. Like, I get, like, you don't want a sky judge calling every single penalty that there is, but there needs to be, at least like for personal fouls. No, like if it's something 100%. like a face mask or something like that, like that needs to be called. Like, you need to be punished for these things specifically.
I mean, part of it also needs to be that, like, okay, so me and you, we're from South Carolina. I'm also a Packers fan. This should be information that is given to the league whenever I go in to be an official for the league. I grew up a Packers fan. I grew up rooting for Green Bay. Okay, you grew up rooting for Green Bay. You're not officiating any game that has the Green Bay Packers, the Chicago Bears, the Minnesota Vikings, the Detroit Lions in it because of whether it's still your allegiance, it's still your prior allegiance. You're also from South Carolina. You're not officiating any game that has the Carolina Panthers, New Orleans Saints, Atlanta Falcons or Tampa Bay Buccaneers in it, just because of the region that you come from and the region that your family probably comes from. Why is that not happening? Why? I mean, maybe it does happen, but obviously it didn't for the Philly Miami game. If one of the officials was from Philly, that's a very easy thing to do.
Yeah, but nothing's gonna happen until the sports books start complaining about it. Which it was a good week for them. So
I guess
they're not. This was the first week that because the public has been winning most weeks. Apparently, is what I was hearing on the Pat McAfee show, and that this week was like the balance of the sports books getting all the money back. Essentially,
garbage is what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll jump over to legit or counterfeit. This one was actually presented by one of our Discord users. So hop onto the community over there and talk some sports with us. The link is in the description of the episode, as it always is. Hop into the Discord. This one was presented by the user Save Me Lakitu. So shout out to him, or her, or them, whoever. Miami Dolphins, legit or counterfeit? Combined record of opponents and wins are 8-25. Their average margin of victory is 19 points over those teams. The combined record of opponents and losses, which I think they've only lost 2 games at this point, is 10-4. Their average deficit in losses is 21 points. So they're beating the teams you're supposed to beat. They're losing not close games to teams that are good teams. The opponents' records they've played against so far are a combined total of 18-29. Their schedule the rest of the way so far, the combined record is 35-31. Legit or counterfeit? The Miami Dolphins.
Oh boy. I think they're still legit. It is kind of odd because their first couple games were their first 3 games were against teams that people thought were going to be good, right? So I think it did skew our view of them a little bit in the sense of wow, they stood toe to toe with the Chargers. They went on the road and beat Bill Belichick at home. They scored 70 points on Denver.
Yeah.
I think it did blow them up a little more than what they actually are, especially on the defensive side. I think their defense is pretty hurt right now, which is why they're still, because they're allowing I don't know what the exact number is, but I mean they gave up 34, 17, 20, 20 or 48, against Buffalo. 16 to the Giants, 21 to Carolina, and 31 to Philadelphia. So I think they have some work on the defensive side of the ball, and when they play prolific offenses, it's a problem for them. Now, Philadelphia, we just talked about, had a ton of referee issues.
They're giving up 26.7 points per game, by the way.
Yeah, which is
That's
pretty
bad.
high. Yeah,
it's bottom 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7th, bottom 7 in the league.
Yeah, I think if anything, I think the offense is still great. For Tua is still good. They still have Tyreek Hill. They have Jalen Waddle. Raheem Mostert's a little older, but he's still there. Hopefully, Achane will come back. I think their offense is still legit.
Offensively, they're putting up the most points in the league, 34 points a game.
Yeah. I think if anything is counterfeit about the Dolphins, it's their defense. Because they're even the bad teams that they're blowing out, 31-16, that's a blowout number. 42-21, that's a blowout number.
Yeah.
But they're still allowing 16, this many points to bad teams. So, or bad offenses, I should say, with New England, New York, and Carolina.
Yeah. Yeah,
I think they're still going to make the playoffs. With how Buffalo's playing too, it's still going to be a weird. AFC East is a weird race for first place right now.
Definitely.
Yeah. But yeah, I think the team as a whole, I think they're still going to make the playoffs, whether it's wild card or winning the division. I would say, if anything, they just got a little overhyped, but I think they're still legit.
Yeah, I actually agree with you. I think they're legit as well, just because of the offense. I think that offense is explosive. That offense can score against, I think, most teams in the NFL. Um, Philly has a very good defense. We also just talked about all the penalties that weren't called against Philly.
Yeah, Philadelphia's defense is great. Yep.
Those matter. If you get a PI call, that completely changes your drive. If you get a holding call, that completely changes Philly's drive. Like these are penalties can change a game. Again, I don't want to make excuses for the Dolphins losing, but like there is somewhat of an excuse there. I think that Dolphins offense is one of the best in the league, if not the best. The defense is, it's kind of what I've been saying for most of the year about them. I worry about that defense, especially when they face top tier teams. So I'm not too surprised by where they sit currently.
Yeah.
But I still think they're probably legit just because of the strength of that offense.
Yeah, they're the most recent example. They're like the 2019 Chiefs, where we're going to score more points than you, and that's how we're going to win. You can score as many as you want. We're just going to score more.
The problem
is the mindset that Miami fans should be thinking about. They just need to be able to do it against good defenses, which, funny enough, they play the Chiefs in 2 weeks in Germany, so that'll be their next kind of big defensive test, I think.
Man, Germany gets a good game. That should be a good one.
Yeah, Tyreek Hill revenge game.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even think about that.
But we'll talk about that next week.
Well, I say it's time to put Week 7 in the review, turn our attention to Week 8, almost at the halfway point. This is crazy. And hey, man, let's get picky with it.
Getting picky with it. Getting picky with it. Getting picky with it. Getting picky with it.
What is your record as you stand, good sir?
Well, thanks to the referees in the Pittsburgh game, I am now at 65-41, and I believe I'm now one game ahead of you.
You are. I'm at 64-42 after my awful, terrible, no good week.
So now I could just play defense the rest of the year and just only agree with you, since I always pick second.
Don't do that. don't be that garbage person. Starting us off this week over on Amazon Prime, Thursday night football. We've got the 3-3 Tampa Bay Buccaneers heading up to Orchard Park to take on the 4-3 Buffalo Bills. At home, Buffalo 8.5-point favorites. Ooh, I don't know how I feel about that, especially coming off a loss to the New England Patriots, a game in which I don't know where New England came from. I think what happened with the Bills is the defensive injuries caught up with them. I do think the Bucs have a chance in this one. I'm gonna pick the Bills, but part of me really wants to pick the Bucs. And if the Bucs get the upset, I will not be surprised. Who you got, man?
I am kind of with you. Although looking at the Bucs schedule, like they beat the Vikings barely, they beat the Bears by 10. They blew out the Saints, who are also kind of streaky.
Okay, go look at the Patriots schedule, who just beat this Bills team. The Patriots team who we didn't know had an offense.
Well, yeah, obviously, but that's a divisional game,
true.
That was in New England, wasn't it?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah,
I mean, true. Those things do matter, but I think the Bucs.
Bill Belichick was playing for his job, also, and Mac Jones too. I think
the Bucs. I think they could find a way to do it.
I do agree with you. If the Buccaneers win, with how the Bills have been playing, I would not be surprised. But I do not think at home the Bills are going to have 3 bad performances in a row, because they did beat the Giants, but they probably didn't deserve to. So I'm going to pick the Bills as well. I would not be surprised if the Bucks keep it close. I would not be surprised if the Bucks get a close win, and I would not be surprised if the Bills absolutely obliterate the Buccaneers.
I agree, which is why I am going with the Bills. But
Yeah, I'm going with the Bills.
Part
as
of
well,
me-
if I didn't say it.
I just want it on record that part of me really wants to pick the Bucks, but I'm not going to.
I mean, you could.
I could, but I'm not
You
going
could.
to. Especially now that I'm losing by a game in our standings. So
Well, that means we need to disagree on things.
let's head over to Sunday. Heading out to Lambeau Field for Minnesota Vikings coming into town to take on the 2-4 Green Bay Packers, who are absolute garbage, stink. They're a dumpster fire. At this point, just tank for a good quarterback because Jordan Love ain't it. The line is even. I'm picking the Vikings in this one. I think Minnesota's got this, especially with the way they looked against the 49ers. Who you got, man?
So originally, before we picked the user, yeah. Do you want me to let him out real quick?
Yeah, probably.
Be right back.
Who? I'm also
All right.
starting.
Yeah. What was I saying?
Don't know. Who you got, man?
So, the interesting thing, I was going to actually do a legit or counterfeit about the Packers this week before we took Save Me Lakito's suggestion, which, maybe we should do those more. Maybe we should do some fan submitted.
I'm always open for that.
Yeah. So, if you think of any legit or counterfeits throughout the week that are interesting and have some stats with them, feel free to put them in our Discord. The link should be somewhere
In the description.
in the description. Yeah, just throw something in there, and if we like it, we'll use it, and we'll shout out your name on the podcast.
Yep.
I was personally going to ask you how you feel about our bet.
Well, I feel great about our bet because I specifically mentioned, and I'm glad I put this in there, that
That has to be on Justin Fields.
it has to be Justin Fields.
He's not going to be
fault.
hurt forever.
True, but he's not the reason why they're winning these games currently.
Well, he's the reason they won one of them.
Yeah. He's not the reason they beat the Raiders, though. So, and it's not like the Packers will only win 2 games the whole year.
I mean, they could.
Now, listen. Listen.
They could.
This is a Packers team that lost by 1 to the Falcons. That's a coin flip game. They lost by 2 to the Broncos. That's a coin flip game. That's 2 games. This is a team that could easily be sitting at 4-2 currently, and they're sitting at 2-4.
I'm just
So,
saying, there's
they're not.
maybe 2 games left that I'm like, they should definitely win that. And even then, like, the Giants have played decently since Saquon's been back, and the Panthers could be a little frisky by the end of the year.
The Packers have firmly gotten beat by one team this year, and that was the Lions. Every other game, again, they lost by 1 to the Falcons. That's a coin flip. They lost by 4 to the Raiders. That's a coin flip. And they lost by 2 to the Broncos. That's a coin flip.
Yeah, but
Now,
they've
granted,
only also blown out one other team. Their
Sure,
win
I'm not-
against the
I don't-
Saints was also a coin.
I don't need them to win beautifully. A win's a win. So what I'm saying is there's no way they're only going to win 2 games the rest of the way. Like, they will have a better record than just 2 wins after week 18.
I think the
How
Bears
much better?
will too.
I don't know.
I think the Bears will too. They have pretty similar schedules looking at it. I think the Bears surprisingly have a little bit tougher only because the Bears don't play the Giants, which are like one of the worst or second worst teams in football. So it could be close if Justin Fields puts on a performance against some of these good teams,
I mean,
I'm just saying save a few dollars is all I'm saying.
it's 3 losses by a combined 7 points. That's like at some point there's I feel like at some point in that, when you're losing that close, there's a little bit of everything. A little bit of bad luck, a little bit of things not breaking your way, a little bit of bad play, a little bit of bad coaching. It's just a mixture. Like you're not clearly a bad team and you're not clearly a good team. You're kind of just existing, and things just aren't happening for you currently. So I think that my gosh, you're making me defend this team right now. They will be fine the rest of the way. They need a quarterback, but they will be fine the rest of the way.
Okay. Now back to the pick. I don't remember who you picked. I'm picking the Vikings.
I'm picking the Vikings.
Okay. Yes, I'm also picking the Vikings.
And if they lose this one by a field goal, I will not be surprised.
We didn't really talk about it much when we talked about that game, but the way that Minnesota's defense was able to step up against San Francisco was phenomenal. And if they can do that to Green Bay, they don't stand a chance. So I'm definitely going to take the Vikings. Yeah. The offense is already much better. Chicago's defense, I mean, they're still pretty good. I think there's only been one game that they've let up over 20 points. So they also haven't played great offenses, but it's fine.
Also,
no, they gave up 34 to the Lions. I'm sorry.
For the record, Anders Carlson missed a field goal on Sunday against the Broncos. If he had nailed that field goal, they win by a point. So,
well, maybe they should get a better kicker.
Again, it's a little bit of everything. It's not just Jordan Love's fault.
You can't blame the kicker for missing kicks.
Oh, I 1,000% can blame the kicker for missing kicks. We all know how I feel about kickers. Don't like them, don't want them, get them out of here. Moving on.
Yeah, off track. I'm taking the Vikings for the record.
Also taking the Vikings. Moving on. We got the 3-4 Los Angeles Rams coming off that loss to the Steelers, heading into Big D to take on the 4-2 Dallas Cowboys at home. The Cowboys 6.5-point favorites. I think that's fair. I don't love what the Cowboys have shown me as a complete package this year. I think they're still a good team. How good? TBD. The Rams, I think, are also a team on the rise. I think this one could be a close matchup. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like a 27-24 type game. However, I'm still going to pick Dallas because I don't quite believe in this Rams squad yet. But I'm starting to. Who you got, man?
Yeah, that having the dual threat. I mean, Cooper Kupp didn't even have. I think he had 2 catches for 29 yards. Was a non-factor against Pittsburgh. It was all Puka Nacua. So just having it be like, okay, you're going to double team Kupp, fine. I'm going to throw it to Puka. Is a great dynamic for them. I still think the Cowboys are a better team. I'm still going to pick the Cowboys, but kind of like Bucks Bills. I'm like, if the Rams pull off a close one, wouldn't be surprised. If the Rams keep it close, wouldn't be surprised. If the Rams get obliterated, would not be surprised.
I would be surprised by that just because of what the Cowboys have shown me this year. I don't think
the Cowboys just have to go. And I meant to say this with. I guess I'll talk about it when we get to whenever the 49ers play this week.
Yeah.
But Dak he can't play from behind. They have to get ahead early and then keep that lead so if Aaron Donald can get some sacks early or if their defense can make some plays early, then, that's what the Rams need to do. Otherwise, if the Cowboys get off to like a 14-0 lead, it's going to be nearly impossible, I think, for the Rams to come back.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm going to go with the Cowboys nonetheless.
Also, rolling with the boys. Let's head on out to Nashville. We've got the Atlanta Falcons, 4-3 and frisky, heading in to town to take on the 2-4 Tennessee Titans. Atlanta 2.5-point favorites on the road. I like that line. I've got the Falcons winning this one. I don't have faith in this Titans team. I think there's too many question marks about them. I don't think the defense is good. Offensively, there's nothing besides Derrick Henry. And I think the Falcons have, outside of Desmond Ritter, like that team is improving. I haven't seen anything from Ritter to make me believe that he is improving, but the team around him, I think, is getting better, especially on the defensive side, with every week. So give me Atlanta. Who you got, man?
I just hope Bijan is over his little cold or whatever he had this
His
past
illness.
week.
Flu-like symptoms. I don't know
Yeah.
what he had.
Because I mean they did end up getting the win in the end, but they definitely missed him that game.
Yeah, a little bit.
I'm gonna go with the Falcons as well. The Titans defense could give Ritter some trouble, especially like I feel like no matter who's playing on that Titan team, that defensive line, just like Vrabel's kind of coaching and game plan, like always makes something happen. And so
Yeah.
again, if they can get to Ritter, I could see that being a problem. But if Bijan's healthy, just give it to Bijan and let him juke everybody on the Titans. So yeah, give me the Falcons. I think they will get this road win.
Let's go out to Indianapolis, where we have the 3-4 New Orleans Saints coming into town to take on the 3-4 Indianapolis Colts, coming off of a bit of a heart-wrenching loss to the Browns, where Gardner Minshew, played his butt off. Minshew had a fantastic game. Now, he did have a handful of turnovers, which is not good, but had a great game in the passing game. Made some moves on the ground. I like this Colts team. I think there's a lot of talent there. I think they have their head coach. If Minshew can keep playing like this, I think that they could get some wins with him this year while Anthony Richardson is off recovering. So I'm gonna pick Indy in this one, get the upset. I guess it's an upset. New Orleans 1-point favorites. I don't like that line, but yeah, I'm gonna pick the Colts. Who you got, man?
This was one of the ones that I thought we might disagree on, but we don't. I'm also going with the Colts. Minshew Mania is running wild, and I love it.
Listen, if he can keep playing that way, what he
I mean,
showed, what
if
he
he
showed
can
in
do that
relief.
to the Browns defense, he can do it to anybody.
That this is true. We talked about that Browns defense last week. So yeah,
I don't know if
that's
it
true.
necessarily happens consistently, but funny enough, I'm going to check the Saints' schedule to be sure. They did play Trevor Lawrence last week, but I think this might be the second best quarterback that they've played all year.
Oh,
Look who they played though. The Saints, they played Ryan Tannehill, they played Bryce Young, they played Jordan Love, they played Baker Mayfield. That could be close. Baker Mayfield's been improving.
Baker's better than Gardner.
They played Mac Jones. They played C.J. Stroud, who's probably also better. So third
Mac,
or fourth best.
Mac and CJ are both also better than Gardner.
I don't think Mac Jones at this year. Mac Jones is not better than Gardner Minshew.
Okay, fair.
But
Yeah, so fourth best because you have Trevor, CJ, Baker.
Yeah.
Gardner. Fourth best.
Regardless, I'm going with the Colts. I just think all around something is wrong with the Saints. I thought Derek Carr was going to be a great fit there, and it seems he's just not. It's just kind of what it feels like.
I don't know. I don't know what made you believe that he would be a good fit there.
Because I watched him a lot when he was on the Raiders, and
I've always liked him.
I said it in the preseason that I thought it was just like kind of the reject team, and that he was going to be in a spot that
maybe
believes in him. He wasn't going to have Devontae Adams, but he was still going to have some decent weapon. Like Michael Thomas and Chris Olave is an awesome receiving duo.
Agreed.
And then Alvin Kamara is talented as well. He missed him a few games, but I don't know. I just thought that was all going to click there. I just thought it was going to happen, and it didn't. Sometimes, sometimes it happens.
Sometimes it happens.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Colts.
Well, let's head on out to Hard Rock Stadium in Miami, Florida, where we have the 2-5 New England Patriots. Yep, You heard me right. They got a second win on Sunday over Buffalo, and they're heading down to take on another division foe in the 5-2 Miami Dolphins. Miami, 9-point favorites at home. Vegas doesn't care about New England getting a big win. They don't think they have any momentum heading into this game, and I agree with Vegas. Give me the Dolphins all day in this matchup. I have no faith in the Patriots. Listen, you gotta have more than one big win, and it wasn't even that big. It was a 4-point win over the Bills to convince me that you're a good team. Give me Miami. Who you got, man?
Yeah, I'm also not a lot for us to disagree on this week, at least so far. I think this one's pretty easy. The
Yeah.
Patriots, again, it's a divisional game. Anything can happen. It was kind of a close game last time they played. I think it was a one score game. But I mean, in Miami, like the Dolphins always play better at home, especially as the weather starts to get colder up north. They just it's hard to get used to that temperature adjustment. So they're just great at home. They're undefeated at home so far this year, 3-0, and I think they continue that. So.
Here's something to watch in this game if you need a reason to watch the Patriots get destroyed. Tyreek Hill, through 7 games, is already at 900 yards receiving. He's going to break 1,000 yards in this game, which is their 8th game of the season. So that 2,000-yard mark is firmly in the view for Tyreek Hill.
I'm trying to see what he got the last time they played New England. See all.
That would have been last
I don't know.
year,
They
wasn't it?
held him pretty well. He only had 5 catches for 40 yards against New England.
That was last year, though, wasn't it?
No, that was this year. This
Was
was
it
week
this
2.
year? He had a 40-yard game this year, and he's already at 900 yards.
Yeah.
That means in the other 6 games, he had 860 yards. That's ridiculous.
Yes. His next lowest outing, he's only had 3 outings under 150 yards, and that was 40 against New England, 58 against Buffalo, and 88 against Philly. Every other game was at least 150 yards, including the 200-yard game he had week 1.
That's stupid. That's just a stupid stat.
Yeah.
Stupid stat of the week. There you go.
And we'll see how healthy he is. He's listed questionable right now. Let me see what his injury is.
I mean, he'll get the 98 yards. He'll get it. I have faith.
Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle also held out of Wednesday's practice with a hip injury, and Waddle is dealing with a back injury. Miami's pretty beat up.
Yeah, I'm not taking the Patriots, though.
I'm just saying it.
Let's go out to MetLife, where we have the New York Jets heading into town to take on the New York Giants at their same stadium that they both play at. On the road, the Jets are 3-point favorites. On the sure, yeah. I don't know how.
I am shocked. I don't think this will be like a good game as to being like a primetime game, but I am shocked that they saw the Jets and Giants on the schedule. Both teams were projected to at least be good, and they didn't put it primetime.
Well, thank God they didn't. I mean, let's just throw that out there.
I mean,
No,
it's the Battle of New York, man.
No,
It's the battle. Of,
no,
It's the Battle of New Jersey.
No.
I
don't want.
I'm
this
not
game
saying. I'm not.
anywhere near.
I'm not saying I want it primetime. I'm just saying I am surprised that they didn't look at this game and go, "This should be primetime," instead of Bears Chargers or Raiders Lions. You know what I mean? Or Bucks Bills. Like I feel like preseason this game would have been way better than any of those games, and I'm shocked that they didn't put this game in primetime.
I mean, those two teams have also both been in primetime so much already. So, like, let's not do it anymore.
Yeah, but they should have just moved a different week.
Anyway,
I don't know how they do the freaking schedule.
I'm going with the Jets defense in this one. Yes, I clarified the Jets defense because I'm not giving the offense any credit for this win. But give me the Jets defense upsetting the Giants, or not upsetting, getting the win against the Giants. They're 3-point favorites, not an upset. Who you got, man?
Yeah, I mean, this game, the Jets defense just have to keep Saquon at bay. I don't know if Daniel Jones is starting or if Tyrod Taylor's
Who
starting.
cares? They're the same person.
Did you see?
Which, let me just say, they are the same person in this offense, and they just paid Daniel Jones $40 million a year. So, you know that front office has got to be questioning that decision.
Did you see the stat about Tyrod Taylor
Did
with their win
Yes.
over
first black quarterback?
the first black quarterback to win a game for the Giants?
Crazy. Stupid. Another
Um,
stupid stat of the week.
The Jets just have to keep Saquon Barkley from getting going. The Giants just have to get to Zach Wilson and make sure that he doesn't have any options, and stop Brees Hall. I'm going to go with the Jets as well. I think the Jets are more talented everywhere else, maybe even at quarterback. I don't know. It's a tough game. I mean, home field advantage obviously is a big factor here. So,
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge
do you think
factor.
there's do you-
Determines
who do
the
you-
game.
who do you think is going to have more fans in the stadium?
The Giants.
You think so?
Yeah.
Hmm.
The Jets are the younger brother to the Giants for sure. It's that way in all the New York sports. Like the Mets are clearly the younger brother to the Yankees. And spoiler, most Mets fans are Jets fans as well. Just because of the underdog mentality, I guess.
Because they rhyme.
But yeah, it's definitely the Giants are gonna have more fans.
I don't think it'll help
Let's-
them. Give me the Jets.
Let's head out to Acrisure Stadium
Oh my
in
god!
Pittsburgh, where we got the Jacksonville Jaguars coming into town to take on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Jacksonville, 2.5-point favorites on the road. I like it. I think that line could be a little bit bigger. I think this Jags team is one of the better teams in the AFC and probably getting slept on more than they should be for a team that is 5-2. Give me Jacksonville over Pittsburgh. Who you got, man?
I'm agreeing with you once again. I'm going to take the Jaguars. I could see TJ Watt, the Steelers defense, giving the Jaguars some problems, but I think Jaguars defense is still good enough to hold the Steelers at bay. And I think this will be a pretty easy win for the Jags.
Yep. So let's head out to FedEx Field in Maryland, where we have the Philadelphia Eagles coming into town to take on their divisional foe in the Washington Commanders. Philly, 6.5-point favorites on the road. I like it. Give me Philly. I don't even want to touch this Commanders team.
Now hold on.
They've shown flashes. They've shown that they do have some level of competence. But then they go and essentially lay a goose egg against the Giants, and it's just like, what are you doing? What is this? What is this team? And also, I would like Ron Rivera to get canned, and so for that to happen, they need to rack up some more losses. Give me the Eagles. Who?
Well,
you
now
got, man?
they're going to win because you said he should get fired. So
Probably.
that's a new trend
That's how
for
it
us.
goes.
That is a
And-
new trend for us.
And also, this is the team that broke the streak on the Eagles last year. So
Yep.
that was with Heine leading the way, though. So I want that on the table.
Yep. If the Eagles were still undefeated, I would take the Commanders, but they already have their loss. The Commanders did take them to the end when they met earlier in the year. Divisional games are always weird. It is in Maryland, in Maryland and DC, wherever the Commanders, wherever they
Yeah.
want to say they're from.
Yeah.
But I'm still going with the Eagles. As much as I wouldn't be shocked since how they played last game if the Commanders can make it close, and the Commanders have been so up and down, like bad against bad teams, good against good teams for some reason, the Washington Commanders. But I think the Eagles still find a way to pull it out.
Commanders, just one big giant question mark. Let's go just a couple hours south to the Queen City of Charlotte, where we have the 3-3 Houston Texans heading to town to take on the 0-6 Carolina Panthers on the road. Houston being led by the rookie quarterback stud, CJ Stroud, going up against the rookie quarterback dud, Bryce Young. Listen, Panthers, you're 0-6. You're going to be 0-7 after Sunday. You ain't getting your win this week. Give me the Texans. Who you got, man?
These are also the cheapest ticket prices of the week.
$24.
Actually, no, that's a lie. Arizona's cheaper. We'll get there. But yeah, pretty low. And you're going to see two, probably at least one future quarterback that's going to be a franchise guy. Bryce Young, hopefully, will get there.
We'll see.
But yeah, it could be the Texans as well. The Panthers, at this point, they're going to lose probably all their games. They're going to give their first-round pick, their number one overall pick, to the Bears. So it's an unfortunate situation for them. But I do think they will bounce back eventually. But for now, give me the Texans.
I'm gonna probably regret this decision for at least the next few years. In the deep keeper league that I'm in, I had a fairly high draft pick this year, and I've been needing a quarterback for like every year that I've been in this league.
Did you pull a Carolina and take Bryce Young over CJ Stroud?
I did. I did. I made the mistake. So I made the mistake.
It's because of your vendetta against Ohio State.
I made the mistake. I mean, there is that, and so I just naturally thought, okay, well, Bryce Young's probably going to be better than CJ, just because Ohio State.
But there's not a lot of great Alabama quarterbacks either. Not like great ones.
I agree, but there's
I mean,
more.
like
There's more
Tua's
lately.
killing it.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts is an Oklahoma quarterback. I don't care.
I also made the mistake of asking for advice from my girlfriend, who is an Alabama alumni. And obviously she said Bryce, and I was like, yeah, that's who I would go with too.
I'm gonna tell her you said that,
and I went with Bryce instead of CJ.
I'm gonna tell her that you're throwing her under the bus.
And so now I'm stuck with the rookie quarterback dud instead of the rookie
At
quarterback
least he
stud.
runs sometimes. He gets some rushing yards.
Not enough.
I mean, obviously, but
All right. Let's head out to Seattle. We have the Cleveland Browns heading into town to take on the Seattle Seahawks. I think the Seahawks team has just kind of quietly been doing their business. They're 4-2, and they've just kind of been hanging out over there, like not doing anything super flashy, not making a big name for themselves, just taking care of business. This Browns team, 4-2, and it's been a little bit of a roller coaster for them. Some of that's due to injury. Some of that's due to their quarterback deciding he doesn't want to play. He just wants to cash in the money and not put in the effort. But I'm picking the Browns in this game, weirdly, because of that defense, even though it didn't show up in Indianapolis on Sunday, apparently. And I'm rolling with the Cleveland Browns to get it done over Seattle. Who you got, man?
I will say, as many points as Cleveland's defense allowed in that game against Indianapolis, they still, I mean, Myles Garrett specifically
had a game.
Yeah. I'm just gonna look. I know we don't normally rely on fantasy numbers, but they allowed 38 points, which normally loses you 4 points, right? In our league, at least.
Yeah.
They still got 20 because they forced a fumble on special teams. Myles Garrett blocked a kick. Myles Garrett got a strip sack in the end zone that was recovered for a touchdown for them. They also got an interception, and there were 3 total fumbles. So, even though the points were allowed, and I think that was partially because the Colts kept getting pretty good field position, because the offense was not good.
Yeah.
The Browns' defense, I think, is still really good. Still probably the best in the league. That's going to ruin their 0.4 total. Also, it looks like Deshaun Watson is not going to play this week.
Surprise.
Is, quote, slated for, they worded this wrong. I'm going to read it exactly how it is. Don't blame me. is slated focus on rehabbing his shoulder injury throughout the week and then rest on game day. Is the Browns Kelsey Russo of the Browns official site reports.
Weird.
So,
But also, why are you resting if you're preparing throughout the week? Why would you rest on game day?
they're saving face. Did you see the press conference where he's like, "We just wanted to protect our franchise guy"? Like he didn't look like he meant that. He looked like
Dumb.
he was, you know what I mean? He was like, "Yeah, we're protecting our franchise guy." Like, no, he's like, "Wait, why am I getting hurt? I'm getting $250 million no matter what." You know, so
I think Cleveland has regretted that contract decision almost every single day since they offered it.
Yeah.
And I don't see any end in sight to that.
I mean, there's no way out of it for them. They
No,
have
because nobody's going to take that contract on. And if they cut him, then that's dead cap. That's going to drastically hurt their free agency.
Yeah.
So
It looks like PJ Walker will get another start, and morally, I have no issue with that, so I'm going to take the Browns as well. I wrote Cleveland check QB. Is what I wrote in my notes.
Oh, well, let's go out to Denver, where we have the Kansas City Chiefs heading into town to take on the Denver Broncos, coming off their second win of the season over that sorry Packers team on the road. Kansas City, 7-point favorites. I think that's fair. This Broncos team is not good. Even for as bad as the Packers played on Sunday, Denver could only amass 19 points. Just not good. Chiefs, very good. Give me Kansas City. Who you got, man? I don't even need to ask. Just move on to the next game. Just are you picking Kansas City?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, point proven. On to the next one. I mean, like, there's nothing to talk about. Kansas City's going to roll. Denver's going to suck.
Yeah.
It's going to be what it is.
The only thing I was going to mention is that the last game we had some issues in the red zone against them, but I think that we're
Some
through that,
issues
so.
in the red zone for the Chiefs. Oh, goodness.
But-
Whatever are they going to do?
But yeah, I think the Broncos defense is just Swiss cheese at this point, and the Chiefs are. Mahomes is definitely starting to click with his smorgasbord of receivers and has McCole Hardman back for a full week, and Travis Kelce. I don't know if Taylor Swift is going to be there, but she'll probably watch some highlights. You know, so Travis Kelce still got to get in all the highlights for the YouTube video.
All right, let's go out to the desert where we got a bird fight. Bird fight at State Farm Stadium. We got the 5-2 Baltimore Ravens heading into town to take on the 1-6 Arizona Cardinals team. This Cardinals team, no longer fun, no longer frisky, no longer feisty. Baltimore, 8.5-point favorites on the road. I will say this. Because of how Baltimore has played this year, I could see them walking out of State Farm with like a 3-point win. And it looking more like what they did for the first 6 weeks of the season versus what they just did against the Lions. Now, if you want to prove me wrong and prove that you are a legit top-tier AFC team that's going to be contending for the AFC Championship, go in and take care of business against a bad Cardinals team. Go blow them out the water. Go do your thing. If you don't want that, then go do what you've been doing the other 6 weeks. But give me the Ravens in this one. I'm not picking the Cardinals. If you're in the Glendale, Arizona area, $15 get you into the game. Who you got, man?
I'm going to start out by saying I'm also going with the Ravens. I'm just going to get that out of the way. The big news with Arizona, Dobbs has been kind of regressing, but it seems like just in time because Kyler Murray has logged a full practice this week. So
Woo.
we could be seeing the return of Kyler here. If not this week, then maybe next week or the
they
week
stunk
after.
with Kyler last year.
I'm not saying it's going to be much of an improvement, but more of a chance than they have right now with Joshua Dobbs.
Sure.
Even though Joshua Dobbs is trying his best, he's playing his heart out. He just people are starting to get some film on him and figure it out, it seems. And Baltimore is one of those teams. Also, Zach Ertz on IR as of this week. Probably one of the best tight ends in the game over the last few years, and definitely one of the best receivers that they have. So, give me the Ravens.
Well, let's take a little drive out to Santa Clara, California, where we have the 3-3 Cincinnati Bengals head into town to take on the 5-2 San Francisco 49ers, the banged up San Francisco 49ers. And speaking of banged up, I saw that Brock Purdy is in the concussion protocol, which means there is a very real possibility Purdy ain't going on Sunday. And if he doesn't go, I believe Sam Darnold is the backup. And
Correct. He is still currently Sam Darnold.
we will see just how plug and play that offense actually is if any quarterback can go in there and do what Brock Purdy's been doing. Vegas still thinks so. San Francisco at home, 3.5-point favorites. I don't like that line.
I mean,
And I tell you what I do like is Joey B and the boys getting things rolling in Cincy. I'm taking the Bengals in the upset out in San Francisco. That Niners team is getting knocked down a couple pegs over these last couple weeks. And yeah, some of it's due to injury, but I think this is a game, if you're the Bengals, you've got to say, hey, we've got a chance to go get a win against an opponent that looked pretty fierce a couple weeks ago. Let's go do it. So give me Cincinnati. Who you got, man?
I think the biggest thing, and I'm trying to see if he's on track at all to play this week, and he's not. I think even if it's Sam Darnold, I'm only worried about the 49ers if Trent Williams is out again, because they definitely missed him this week.
Yeah.
I think that's a big reason Brock Purdy didn't have a great game. And what I was going to mention before is that Brock Purdy starting to look a little Dak out there. Like, what if they don't get ahead early, he's not the guy to come back and win the game for you, is what it's kind of starting to look like for like both good quarterbacks in the offense that they're in. But once they have to go off script and and all that, it doesn't seem to be
fair
working out as much. That being said, I think this one is one of the toughest ones we've done. I think it's the only game that we're even going to think about disagreeing on. So
we'll see.
Let's make it fun. I'm going to take the 49ers. I might eat my words if, these injuries stay injuries. Trent Williams' injury was an ankle injury. Hopefully that gets up. Concussion protocol, I feel like can get him back in within the week maybe. So
it can, yeah.
But even with Sam Darnold, like even without Debo, they still have Ayuk, they still have CMC, they still have George Kittle. Like that's an offense you should be able to win with against a Cincinnati defense that isn't great. So
you should.
You
should.
Keyword should.
We'll see. Let's have some more fun out at SoFi Stadium in LA, where we have the 2-5 and I believe still currently Tyson Bagent-led Chicago Bears. Am I correct in that?
Fields is doubtful and did not practice today.
Head into town to take on the 2-4 Los Angeles Chargers, coming off that loss to who'd they just lose to? The Chiefs. They just lost to the Chiefs on Sunday. At home, Chargers 8.5-point favorites. Makes sense. It's the Bears. Except, I don't know what's gotten into me, but I'm picking Chicago to get the upset. I don't care if it's Tyson Bagent. I don't care if it's Justin Fields. I like the Chicago team in this matchup, mainly because the Chargers have looked like poop. And I think a lot of it has to do with the coaching. And I need the coach to get fired, and I want him to get fired, and that means losing games. And I think if they lose on Sunday, like we discussed earlier, to the Bears, you got to get him out of there. So give me the Chicago Bears. Who you got, man?
This was another one I thought we were going to disagree on. No, I also wrote down Chicago. I think the Chargers' defense is a mirage. They have a lot of names that are very talented, but for some reason can never put it together. Like, they're one of the worst defenses.
It's the coach, man.
They're one of the worst defenses in the league. Let me. I know they've let up a lot of points. Let me see how many points they've let up.
Yeah, they have.
17 to the Cowboys, probably their best performance, and then 31 to the Chiefs. So,
Yeesh.
and for some reason, with Tyler Bagent, or however you say his name, Division II, like essentially their Heisman winner is what they kept saying on Sunday.
Yeah.
Their equivalent of the Heisman Trophy. He won it for Division II. First time a Division II player has made like a start since the 1950s or something weird like that. I'm still taking the Bears. It's just fun. It's just fun to root for the Bears, and it's fun to root against AFC West teams for me personally. So yeah, give me the Bears.
Listen, I'm fine picking the Bears with Fields being on the side. That means that it doesn't count towards the bet, so I'm okay with it. Give me a Bears win on this week. Let's head over to Monday Night Football, where this matchup looked a lot better 6 months ago than it does currently.
I don't know about that.
I mean, it did. With Jimmy G in there, it looked a lot better than Aiden O'Connell or Brian Hoyer. But we have the 3-4 somehow getting wins. I don't understand it. Las Vegas Raiders heading into town to take on the Detroit Lions at Ford Field. The Lions 8-point favorites at home. I think they're probably a little pissed off. I think they're probably a little upset. I think they're going to be hunting for some kneecaps on Monday night. Give me the Detroit Lions to get back on track against this bum Raiders team. Who you got, man?
Yeah, there's not much to talk about here. I'm also going with the Lions.
You sure? You don't want to pick the Raiders?
I'm positive.
I think Brian Hoyer was looking good. I think he can get it done for them.
No, absolutely not. Give me the Lions. There's not much to talk about here. The Raiders are hurt and bad and have a bad coach and don't throw the ball to their best player. So
bad team. Just a bad team.
Yeah, they're just bad.
Yeah. Yep. Listen, it's another week where we agreed on almost everything. If not, did we agree on everything? No, we had the one.
We disagreed on Bengals 49ers because I felt bad for you.
Don't do it for me.
No, I also think the 49ers. It's going to be close. I don't know. That's the hardest game to pick, I think, but
I don't like coming off of a chaos week and then we agree on everything. I don't think that bodes well for me. I don't have a good feeling about this week. I'm already going into it just feeling
as long as
great.
The Chiefs win and I win in fantasy, then that's fine.
Also, don't feel great about my fantasy team. So that's a whole other issue. But hey, as always, we appreciate you tuning in and listening to us in whatever capacity you're doing so. If you're watching us on YouTube, hey, thanks. Maybe you should click that subscribe button. That way you're notified every single time that we go live, which is usually Tuesday night. Sometimes it's Wednesday night, depending on what we have going on in our lives, because we do have lives outside of this, unfortunately. But hey, we love you. We appreciate you. We thank you. Follow us on our social media channels if you so desire. Hop into the Discord. Come discuss some football with us. And as always, I believe that's that.
Good chow.